You should be upset about this if you understand the deep level of racism and control that is happening with this. Hey guys, welcome to Too Personal. I'm Joy Taylor. Thanks so much for joining us. Make sure that you hit subscribe and follow us on socials at Too Personal Show. Amazing week ahead of us. And we also will get to our Never Too Personal this week, which I really like. And I think people will probably disagree with me, but what else is new? That's what we're here for. If you want to be a part of the show, make sure you email us toopersonalpodcast@gmail.com. So I wanted to talk about this NAACP boycott. I know that I think they're calling it NAACP, but for the sake of this conversation, NAACP. It's quicker to say. Sorry, guys. Love you. They launched Out of Bounds, which is a campaign that is urging Black athletes, alumni, fans, and consumers to withhold support from public universities in states limiting Black voting representation. Now, we talked about a few weeks ago the Supreme Court's ruling that deeply affected the Voting Rights Act. And so this is in response to that. The campaign is talking about the gerrymandering following the Voting Rights Act of 1965 Supreme Court ruling that weakened the Voting Rights Act. So transfer portals for D1 football and basketball are closed until 2027. So there will be no response from athletes who are already at these institutions. The real influence for this particular campaign would be high school students choosing where they're going to go in the fall and beyond of 2027 and beyond. The Congressional Black Caucus also sent letters to the SEC, the ACC, and the NCAA threatening to block the SCORE Act. That's a bill that would create national NIL rules. If you know anything about NIL, it's a very, very complicated space. And we don't normally talk sports on Too Personal, but this is a topic that crosses over from sports to culture, politics, and social issues. So I thought it was something interesting to talk about, especially because I obviously have professional athletes in my family. My older brother, for those of you who don't know, played professional football in the NFL for 15 years and is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. My nephew, Mason, is in the NFL currently and plays for the Jets. I have two other, a niece and a nephew who are also NIL D1 athletes. So I'm very familiar with this. I was a NCAA athlete as well. I ran track in college. I'm very familiar with this space. I'm not an expert, I'm not a lawyer, but I am familiar with how all of this works. I do think that the boycott is interesting, and I don't necessarily agree with every aspect of it. Asking young people to forfeit opportunities that could change the trajectory of their entire family's future when we're talking about finances, when we talk about what the median Black household in the United States makes compared to the median white household, there's, 20 times difference in income, the opportunities to generate generational wealth. All of these things can be influenced on a college level now because of the NIL. There's no guarantee that you're going to make it to the professional level. And for some of these players, some of these young people, the money that you will make in college will be the big check that you get. You may not make it to the NFL. You may not make it to the NBA, but you could be a big time college player at a PWI and make millions of dollars. And this boycott is asking that these players who may have these opportunities at these schools that have that kind of NIL money in states like Florida, like Louisiana, Georgia, Mississippi, Texas, South Carolina, Alabama, you could be asking them to turn them down to go to states that aren't pushing for these gerrymandering voting rights changes. I get it. Young people have always been at the forefront of movements. They were deeply involved in the civil rights movements. The sit-ins were students. Many of the marchers were students. Many of the organizers were students. The idea that the burden of pushback, protests, movements should not fall on young people, I think is very silly. It's their future that they're fighting for. And I do think that pushing for young Black athletes to go to HBCUs, to bring their talents to HBCUs, is something that is important. And for some of them, it is the opportunity that they need and will end up changing their lives and will change the trajectory of those schools. When Deion Sanders was coaching at HBCU, it was largely influential and very controversial from a lot of the PWIs because Travis Hunter ended up going to an HBCU. I am torn because I know what that kind of money can do to change life for a family and for generations. But I also think when we talk about people standing up for things and making statements, we can't always default to the slightest inconvenience is worth sacrificing our rights and our freedoms. At some point, we do have to take what's happening seriously and not just talk about it. And I think that, to me, is the spirit of this campaign. Obviously, the NAACP is fully aware of the pay gap between Black families, white families, the wealth gap, the ability to buy homes, the ability to start businesses, the ability to get loans. They're fully aware of that. They're fully aware of the money that Black athletes generate for these institutions. That's why the campaign was put together. I don't think it should fall squarely on the shoulders of the athletes, though. There are plenty of people watching these games. There are plenty of people donating, alumni donating to these institutions. And it actually shouldn't just fall on the people supporting the institutions. The institutions themselves should have something to say about this. It is a across-the-board issue when you're talking about institutionally the government suppressing our vote. I talk about voting constantly because, one, as I've said a million times, it is disrespectful to our ancestors that people don't vote. People were killed, lynched, raped, murdered, terrorized, beaten, and forbidden from voting because it actually matters. They wouldn't be doing all of that. They wouldn't be going to these lengths to roll back work that was done in the civil rights era if it didn't matter. They don't care about those things if it doesn't matter. They want to be able to suppress the Black vote, and that should terrify everyone. And if you live in these states or you spend money in these states, you should be upset about this if you understand the deep level of racism and control that is happening with this. I think this is something that has to happen across the board in order for it to be effective. But I also think that when it comes to organizing movements, when it comes to standing up to what's happening, we don't really have an organized voice. We don't have an organized movement. We don't have a leader. We don't have people that we trust in these spaces. And I get it. Everyone didn't like MLK. Everyone didn't like Malcolm X. Everyone didn't agree with the civil rights movement. Don't cause problems. Don't disrupt things. I understand that anytime that there is a movement for change, there is resistance, even within the community that is being oppressed. But at some point, we got to figure it out because there's a lot of work, very openly, loudly open, loud work being done to roll back all of the change, all of the progress that was fought for. I personally am terrified. I think it's crazy that we have all sort of just accepted that this is happening. And I get it. Like, what are we supposed to do? That's the question. What are we supposed to say? What are we supposed to fight for? Where do we go? No one's fighting for us in Congress. No one's pushing back on this regime and every change that they are making that will permanently affect our futures. So do nothing? I don't know. And I think that's, to me, what I interpreted in the spirit of this campaign is that maybe one strong voice from one strong young person that is deeply desired by these institutions, that they want their talent, maybe one player could start that firestorm to make them see that the money and the influence is not going to continue to flow while the rights and the freedoms are not supported. And to me, that was my takeaway from it. It's not reasonable to ask every single athlete that is planning on going to one of those schools and getting paid millions of dollars to play the sport that they've worked their entire life to get the opportunity to play at that level, change their families' lives, and get opportunities and access that otherwise would not exist. But maybe one athlete will stand up and say something and will be articulate enough to explain why, and that will shake the hearts and minds of the people who need to hear it. Because consequences seem to be the only thing that matter anymore, because you can't present people with facts. You can't present people with reality. You can't present people with history and have them absorb it anymore. So I do think that it's an interesting proposition. There are things I disagree with it, and I think it's slightly incomplete. But the spirit of it is, at some point, somebody has to put their convenience and comfortability behind their rights and freedom and the voice and platform that they have. All right, it's time to get to Never Too Personal. I love this question. If you want to be a part of the show, email us toopersonalpodcast@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram @toopersonalshow. So this is the question. If you had to pick one, loyalty or respect, which one and why? This is very easy for me, and it's respect. I think the idea of loyalty is very fluid. Are you loyal in business? Are you loyal in friendship? Are you loyal in a relationship? Are you loyal in family? And no matter what anyone says, you are not 100% loyal to another person. If you do that, you at some point are going to compromise your loyalty to yourself. Now, that's very nuanced, and we could talk about that for a whole other hour. But the reason that I choose respect is, I think if you respect someone, you will default to being loyal to them, but you will also make choices that don't make them feel like any level of disloyalty that you have to them was done in a malicious way. And I think the people that I know respect me. If they do something I disagree with, I know I can have a conversation with them about why. And at the end, I might not agree with them, but we will still respect each other. And I think respect is so much deeper. It runs so much deeper than blind loyalty. I would rather respect a politician than be loyal to them. I would rather respect my partner than be blindly loyal to them. I would rather respect my parents than be loyal to them. I want to respect someone first, and all of these other things will follow afterwards. I get it. Loyalty is a very loaded word. It gets thrown around a lot in the sports space. And in that part of my career, I argue it down to the death. You're not loyal to the team that drafted you. This player, this employee is not loyal to a company. That's what you're saying. Just because you wear their jersey does not mean that they are obligated to be loyal to an organization who at any point can be disloyal and won't be held to the same standard. It's business. There's no loyalty in business. So loyalty gets thrown out a lot in that space. Loyalty to family. Why am I being loyal to a family that doesn't protect me, doesn't support me, is abusive, lies? Why? Why am I being loyal to that? So there's all these like loyalty things that get thrown out, and everyone's idea of loyalty is pretty different. I don't know that everyone's idea of respect really varies that much. If you respect someone, you move a certain way. And if you don't respect someone, you move a certain way. And there's really more of a hard line with respect and not respecting. And while I think you might be able to pitch someone on being loyal to them again, I don't think you can pitch someone on respecting someone again. When you stop respecting someone, I don't know that I've ever lost respect for someone and had them earn it back again. That is a very difficult thing to do. So I personally would choose respect. Thanks for that question. It's really good. I'm always excited when we don't get feet pick questions. It's always very exciting for me. Send in your questions to twopersonalpodcast@gmail.com. DM us and follow us on social @twopersonalshow. And make sure you hit subscribe. Thanks for joining us.